Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Jim Hoven. It's really good to be with you. I am so sorry that we're not together in person, and as it turns out, as technology would have it, we're not even doing this live. So we have just a very small audience because of a technological glitch, but if anybody who wants to see this, I promise we'll be able to get it to you through the resources from backpacks to briefcases, but just know that I've done this a couple of years in a row with you guys prior to, of course, COVID last year, and had such a great time. I love what Backpacks to Briefcases is doing. I love what Adams County, how you guys are thinking through this to help people get a great start. So it is my honor and privilege to give you some information that I hope will really go somewhere with respect to allowing you to find a direction if you don't already have one as far as where to go after high school. So I know that if you're watching this, you're going to be a junior or senior. And so we have some availability for chat questions. We'll open that up as well. But I have literally put around 45 minutes of information to something that's supposed to go about 20 minutes because it was that important to me. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this information as far as going in depth, but rather I think you'll get the message that once we go through it, it's principles, right? Always remember this, no matter what, principles are timeless. Other things change across patterns of time and periods of time, but not principles. They are absolutely timeless. So you'll get the message. I'll go deep enough that you can figure out where you want to drill deeper after this on your own, but this should be a really good thought stimulator for you if you're not positive and absolutely sure what you want to do after high school. So let's go to it. The deal is the right path. And what's the question, the right path? Who is that for? Who is following that path? It's not your parents, it's not your teachers, it's you. And so as you go through this, please keep in mind through this entire program, this short time together, that everything that is going in your future has to go through the filter of you, your world experience, everything else. And so no matter the well-meaning intent of all of us, whether it's your mentors, your teachers, your family, your friends, at the end of the day, your path is your choice. And so it's just important that you think through things and choose wisely. Here's a brief biography of my choices, of my path. And I put these on here only for the reason of letting you see my life didn't turn out how I thought it was going to necessarily. It certainly wasn't a straight path. So I'm going to change this up here, see if I can move this a little bit. So my journey started out as a high school football player. I was at a small school and I was making a tackle one day. I put my head down and instead of tackling with right form, I tackled with the wrong form and I ended up having a neck injury. That neck injury got me into a chiropractic office, and at that point in time, I was getting treatment and I was in this English class, never forget it. This English teacher has us write an assignment that says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm a junior in high school. So I'm on my way to my chiropractic appointment after school. So we had football practice and then chiropractic appointment. Well, I couldn't practice because I was injured. So I go in and I told the doctor of chiropractic, I said, yeah, I had this assignment today, this and that. And he literally looked at me and he said, you should be a chiropractor. He said, it's an incredible chance to help people. I said, but I don't want to do drugs or surgery. And he said, you know what? In chiropractic, you don't do drugs or surgery. I thought about it, sounded like a great path for me. And from that moment on, I set my sights on being a chiropractor. And that was great. But you know what? After I got my doctor of chiropractic, I practiced for 18 years. And then I got recruited to be a franchise executive officer of a chiropractic franchise. So in those nearly 20 years of treating and taking care of patients and learning about sports injuries and acupuncture and allergies and all the specialties that I had derived, it became a new chance for me to use those skills, but evolve to teach other doctors on how to use those things to help more patients and build their practices and do those kinds of things. And so now what I thought I was going to do till the day I died, which was be a practicing doctor, now shifted. And then it shifted again to a gym owner, where now I was still part of the franchise, but I bought a CrossFit gym and we bought the building. And so now I had another hat to wear and another thing to do. And then that moved on where I became the chief operations officer for where you see here in the logo Ramos Law. And that's what I currently do. So I evolved through the chiropractic franchise, and now I get to work as a kind of a liaison between the medical community, people who've been injured, lawyers in the legal community. So now I'm using all those skills and bringing them up. And so it even has led to now a clinic partner with Dr. Ramos in a company called FitMD. So again, I only share all of this with you to let you know that where you think you might be going from your starting point may not be where you end, and that's totally okay. But no matter what you do, no matter what path you choose after high school, know this: your life is meant to be served by what you do. You're not meant to be a slave to what you do with your life. I think that's a really important distinction, because we can all get caught up in our careers and making money and getting stuff, doing all that stuff. But this picture really kind of summarizes what I'm all about. I have these 3 beautiful dogs. The one in front of me is the mama dog, and then the one on the left is the daddy dog, and then the one behind me, she's one of the litter. We kept one of the litter, and all these pups here, the 2 girls weigh about 165 pounds, and the dad's 200 pounds. So these are really, really big dogs. They're lovers, they're amazing, but me being with them, with my family, outside fishing or biking or whatever, this is why I work. This is why I want to do all the things I do. And so I just really want to encourage all of you guys, make sure that whichever path you choose, that your life is being served by your avocation, or I'm sorry, by your vocation. The things that you do for work are serving you in your life's purpose and your life's mission to enjoy your time here on the planet. Now, from my perspective, everybody that's graduating is going to go down one of 4 paths, basically. So let's talk about the paths. First, there's the college path. You can just go to whatever level of college you want, whether it's a 4-year university or whether it's a junior college up to a university, whatnot. And that's that used to be considered the standard way of doing things. We can also go through a trade school if you want to be a specialist, like an electrician or a plumber, any kind of these kind of trades. That's another option that's really, really great for folks. The third is you can get a job. You can just go work for someone, and this is really applicable. Let's say you want to be let's say you want to open a flower shop someday, and you really love flowers, but you don't know the first thing about business. Maybe you go get a job at a flower shop that's really successful. You learn all the processes and business parts of a flower shop, and then you go from there. That could be another thing that you do. Or the fourth thing is starting your own company, starting your own business, also known as an entrepreneur. Now, again, there's no real right answer to any of these things, because at the end of the day, it's important for you to remember your life is your choice. And like me, you may make several decisions along this way, right? So when I graduated from high school, went straight to college because I knew that I wanted to be a chiropractor. And with that, I can't do that on YouTube. I can't do that by going and getting an associate's degree. I had to go all the way so that I could practice and not be charged with practicing without a license, so I could practice my craft. I could be a doctor of chiropractic. But now, the things I do now don't involve using my clinical skills and my chiropractic license near as much as they do my business skills, my leadership skills, my training skills, people skills. All of that stuff has now taken me after, I graduated in 1985 from high school. So it's been several decades for me since I was in your spot. But by just knowing that where was I at this point in my life, that led me to the next point. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So how do you know which way you should go? Just a couple of things that I would put out there for you if you really want to dial it down. First, know your strengths. So many of us, I think we get lured into the thing of, oh, I want to be great at everything. And I got news for you. Regardless of how talented you are, you're going to have a weakness. I have plenty of weaknesses. And so instead of focusing on trying to bring up all of our weaknesses to match our strengths, you're much better served to dive deep and actually double down on your strengths. Make sure that you are really solid and an expert in the things that you're naturally good at. And that way you'll find specific lanes or venues to apply those strengths that are going to lead to you finding the best path for you. And if your strength is not studying, that doesn't mean that you can't go to college, by the way. So this is not an excuse thing. You're like, oh, I'm bad at math, so I can't be an engineer. That's not true. You just have to know what your desire is and what your strengths are. And if your strength isn't math and you want to be an engineer, then you've got to say, okay, why do I want to be an engineer? What's it all about? And if that really resonates with you because you want to change people's lives through engineering, you'll have to find a way to get through the math part while you accentuate your strengths on the creative side, things of that nature. So know what your strengths are. Don't focus on raising your weakness near as much as you focus on doubling down on those things that you're already good at, because that will make you an expert far faster. Next is follow your passion and live your purpose. Now, at your age, I didn't have any idea what my passion and purpose was, but I thought it was chiropractic. I just thought, Yeah, I'm not good with my hands with respect to fixing cars. I'm not good at building things. I'm not good at computers. But what I did know is that I cared for people, and that if I could help them without using drugs and surgery, and I could make them feel better the way that I was made feel better after my injury, I knew, man, that was something for me. But guess what? It didn't become my passion and my purpose until such time as I started becoming an expert in it. So as I went through school, I started falling in love with chiropractic. That wasn't an undergraduate, by the way. I went to CSU, and when I was there, it was a grind for me, right? Because the science is all the stuff you need to get into chiropractic, so it wasn't my natural strength student-wise and academic-wise, so I had to really push, but my desire to be a chiropractor far outweighed my lack of desire to do chemistry and physics and biology and those kinds of things. I wanted the end result so bad I could taste it, so I just forced myself to get through that process. But once I became a chiropractor and I started seeing lives change, I started seeing things that were considered miracles in my office every day, it became my passion. It became my purpose. And then once I saw that I could help people, that I had an ability to communicate, to share a message, and to change people's lives, in particular doctors' lives in that way, then that became my passion. So the point of this is, you don't necessarily have to know what your passion is right now. What you should do is become excellent at whatever path you choose. It doesn't matter if you go college, or if you go trade school, or if you go get a job, or even if you start an entrepreneurial area, become, or at least adopt the attitude of excellence in what you do. And pretty soon you'll start finding out if that's your passion or not. And if it is, as you become better at something, you'll become more passionate. Then you just keep going down the rabbit hole as far as it takes you. And another thing, self-awareness. Are you self-aware? This is where I'm going to use the term peer pressure. That might not be exactly right, but I'm going to use the term peer pressure here. If you don't know who you are, you can succumb to a lot of different ways to choose this path. For example, if you are from a family that highly values education like mine does, it was always doctor, lawyer, that's all I heard. And I'm so thankful that I heard that. But if I didn't want to be a doctor, if that wasn't where I wanted to go, just because I would have gotten through that program, it could have been devastating to the quality of my life at the end of the day. And so knowing who you are and listening to your inner voice, and again, please understand, this is not an opportunity for you to create excuses on why something would take too long, or why something would be too hard, or why you don't know enough. None of those stack up in the real world. After you get out of school, no matter which way you take, it is what it is. And so you're going to have to say, what do I really want? Am I willing to sacrifice to get those things? And am I being true to myself? So if you can look at this as an exercise of being true to who you are, spending time thinking, reflecting, praying, meditating, whatever you want to do internally to know what you want in this life and why, that's self-awareness. And self-awareness will help you make the right choice as to which way of the four paths that you want to take. This is probably my favorite slide of the entire deck right here. This is an hourglass, and as you all know, hourglasses are measurements of time. And you guys are all in the perfect season of your life to know that the time horizon, unless there's an accident, illness, a disease, something like that, you have time on your side. The time horizon is great and is long. And what you see in the top of this hourglass is a heart. And so this to me symbolizes, put your heart into whatever you're doing. Put your heart into, no matter what choice you make, whether it's going to college, going to a trade school, getting a job, or starting a company or your own thing, put your heart into it and know that you have a lot of time theoretically. So there's a difference here between being patient and having a sense of urgency. Be patient at your age, right? Give yourself time and understanding, but when I say having a sense of urgency, don't be lazy. Don't procrastinate. Those are two killers of dreams no matter which of the four paths you take. So put your heart into what you do, know that you have time, and know that time is precious. Regardless of which of the four paths you choose, I have a few recommendations for you. First, focus on excellence. If you focus on excellence, you'll start getting noticed. If you focus on excellence, the people that you work with will consider you the go-to person. And this is, again, going into your strengths. And it doesn't mean not trying new things and not being willing to fail. I'm not saying that. But whatever you do, even if it's not something that you're naturally gifted at, focus on excellence and you'll be able to see how far that you can take it. But people will notice, it will build confidence in you, it'll build certainty and the ability to take on new projects. So in whatever path you choose, that is a really good tenet to follow. Also, regardless of the path you choose, remember this, when you do more than you're paid for, eventually you'll be paid for more than you do. That's a quote from Zig Ziglar, and if you want to hear a great motivational speaker from the past, he's been gone for many, many years now, but he has some incredible material. Highly recommend you, if you're into personal development, which you should be, that you check his stuff out. But this concept of doing more than you're paid for, it's something that I have found 100% to be true in my life, that if I'm given a job to clean something, if I can clean it just a little bit better than someone would expect and they paid me to do, they're like, wow, not only do they want to call me to try to clean it again for them or when they need it cleaned again, but now they might think of me for other things, and it builds such a sense of pride in a good way, right? Like personal character, it builds character when you say, hey, I'm going to give you more value than I expect. And that's where, if you do that long enough, eventually you'll be paid for more than you do, because now you add value in a whole bunch of different ways than just labor. Here's another critical principle that you should apply to your life no matter who you are. Never stop learning. You guys are coming to the end of your high school careers. Never stop learning, because remember this, if the minute you stop learning, you start to stagnate, and nothing stagnant is good. So like this says, you've got to stay relevant, reinvent yourself, and thrive. Because principles are timeless. Things like being honest, being kind, being loving, taking care of others, those are timeless. But the information in any field that you want to choose is accelerating so fast that if you're not continually learning and growing and developing yourself, you are actually going to get left behind. And so the fact that you're coming to the end of one chapter right now, if you go into college, it's going to be a natural progression for you to keep learning. But if you're going down the path of either an entrepreneur or into getting a job, you have to be careful not to be lured into the fact of, oh, I'm just going to focus on this thing and not continue to grow. That would be a huge, huge mistake. Another great motivational speaker, this gentleman, Jim Rohn, has passed as well. This is something that I took to heart. I started listening to him about 25 years ago, and I took this to heart, and it has paid dividends for me like you can't believe, and it's this: work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And that goes back to what we talked about a moment ago on personal development, making sure that you're not just trying to be the best career person, employee, employer that you can be, but rather, how are you growing as a human? What are you doing in the philosophical side of your life to become deeper, to become more fulfilled? And that gives a life of deeper meaning that now you can use as influence for others. Because I'll tell you this, no matter which of the four pathways you choose to become a leader in any of those four paths, you have to raise up who you are as a human, raise up who you are as a person. Otherwise, people won't follow you. So we should all strive to be leaders, starting with leading ourselves and then those around us in our closest sphere of influence. If you can do that, the quickest way to get there is through taking care of your mind, your spirit. And speaking of that, there's a three-pronged or a kind of a triangular structure that we have here that I really like to focus on when it comes to taking care of yourself, and that's physically, mentally, and socially. You should look to develop in all of these. Again, it doesn't matter if you're in college or trade school, if you're getting a job, or if you're starting your own business. These three things, they're the pillars of your success. So take these as I'm giving you at face value, but look to dive deeper in them. So let's address them one by one here. On the physical, if you have no health, you have no career. If your health is suffering, you probably know people in your family who have health issues, and just the toll it takes. You have no energy to chase your dreams if you're not healthy. You have no ability to do sustainable, massive action if your health is in the toilet. So the way that you think, right, your mental stress coping habits, big deal, right? Your eating, your exercise, how you go about movement every day, all of that's important on the physical side. And when we connect that to the mental side, now it's things like, do you understand wisdom? Right? I guess you don't understand wisdom, you gain wisdom. But do you understand patience? If you work on developing yourself mentally, you can get these things faster than if you let them happen with experience alone. So finding time to dedicate to being more mentally, that's going to drive patience and wisdom, which are incredibly valuable assets to you as you travel your career path, no matter which way that goes. And finally, socially, we're all meant to be part of a tribe, part of a community. And I'm sure you see that now, right? Like in your groups, your peer groups, whether it's in theater or sports or debate or your classes, your study groups, whatever, and that the people that seem to thrive the best have their own sense of individuality, and they're not necessarily ruled by peer pressure, but they're also part of a collective that can rely on each other and that can go to each other during tough times. And so socially, if you will spend time understanding, learning, and growing how to be a creature that's socially comfortable, then you're going to have that group that you can give yourself to. And that might not just be your peer group, that could also be a group that you're connected with as part of a charity, right? Where you're giving to something bigger than yourself. You're participating in life that goes beyond just whatever you might do at work. But when you're at work, again, it doesn't matter which of the 4 paths you choose, because if you go to college or trade school, that is your job. That's your work to take you to the next level. So when it comes to that, being able to understand different personality styles, being able to connect with people, being able to be a resource and use them as a resource, it all adds up to an incredible experience for you. So regardless of the path you choose, put focused time on your physical, mental, and social well-being. Also, get a mentor or a group of mentors. So if you recognize this slide, this is basically a drawing of the Karate Kid with Mr. Miyagi as the mentor there. And this picture just spoke to me because I can tell you from experience, I'm 53 years old now, and since I was probably about 16 or 17, I've had mentors. Mentors in the best way to play a sport that I was playing, and then mentors in how to treat people, mentors in chiropractic, mentors in business, mentors in every way that you can think of. And I would really encourage you right now at your age, start finding mentors. And guess what? Here's the beautiful thing. Mentors they don't come in any one specific box. They come in all shapes and sizes. It could be someone that you know, someone that you respect, whoever it is. Make sure that they've gone down the path that you want to go down. That if it's in health, here's what I'd recommend. If you can find a mentor in health, a mentor in wealth, in other words, money, a mentor in wisdom, then those 3 areas, if you can just find people there, someone you think is really wise and has a great ability to kind of connect the world, the pieces of the world together, and then someone who understands health, whether it's through diet and exercise, mental well-being, stress management, those kinds of things, and then money, those people will make a difference for the rest of your life. And even if you don't know them, there's so many options and opportunities now, whether it's YouTube or podcasts, any kind of videos that you want to talk about, there's blogs. So the internet has made finding mentors easy. There's courses that you can take, CDs or whatever the current technology is. You can buy programs, so there is no excuse or no lack of mentors for you. So no matter what path you choose, find great mentors. And finally, if I had advice to give to my high school self, if I was in your age again, knowing what I know now, here's what I would say. Understand very keenly and acutely the value of both time and money. Because here's the deal. Time is the one resource we can never get back. So you have invested in yourself this last 20 minutes or so, and you can never get it back. So I hope that you paid attention, that you gave yourself the chance to be focused. If not, go back and listen to it again, right? Take the notes that you've read them again, because it can never go back. So understanding time and how valuable it is, that would be the first part, and the second part is money. When it comes to money, you can leverage time and money. You have the great time horizon now. Understanding how to budget, how to live within your means, and how to save and how to invest. If you can figure those 4 things out, the earlier the better. And it's not too soon to start thinking about them right now because you have time horizon. Here's a little, just a little story for you about saving. If you were to start saving $2,000 a year, not a month, but a year. So when you figure that out, I don't know, 120, 130 bucks, something like that a month. If you did that from the time you were 21 years old through 29 years old, so that decade of your 20s, just $2,000 a year. And if you just saved that and you put it in an account that made 10% interest, which is not an easy and an automatic thing to do, but just for the sake of numbers, if you did that for 10 years and you never put another dime into it again, here's what compound interest does. When you were 65 years old, that number that you would have of dollars would come out to over $700,000 for the $20,000 that you invested because of compound interest. So to understand the power of money and the power of time when leveraged, it would be the advice I would give myself. The things that you do now for time, the things that you invest in, like your health, like your mental strength, your social connections, when you do that just a little by little by little over the years, you get that same kind of compound investment in your life as you do investing your money just a little by little by little over decades. So that would be the advice to my high school self. Now, for the virtual scavenger hunt, here's the question: how do I make a good first impression? And one way to do that is with a good handshake. There's lots of different ways to shake hands, and so, it used to be, and of course now, you got people that don't want to shake hands because they're worried about contact of viruses and this and that, so you're bumping elbows or you're waving to each other, whatever. And whether the handshake lasts or doesn't last, who knows? But when you connect with someone, the point being, if you are going to do a handshake, make sure that you match their, I don't want to say intensity, but how they're doing the handshake. As you can see, I put 3 different kinds of handshakes on this little slide here. That there's a time where one hand is coming on top of the other, as if you're, hey, I'm helping you get out of a car, I haven't met you yet, please come visit with me. So then the hand's going to be upside down and one on top, and you just kind of move it through. Another one is your standard handshake, like you see the picture in the middle, where the hands meet in the center, and you want to make sure that you put your hand in there and you don't squeeze it and try to break fingers, but on the other side, you're not just what they call the limp fish handshake. And then the third is, this is 2 athletes coming up after a tennis event, and they've got their hands in that kind of, I'll just call it, for lack of a better term, a sports handshake, where it's thumb on top and coming over the top. Now, one thing with handshake, there's an energy behind it. There is a connection of spirit with physical contact of the handshake. So making sure that you're giving good eye contact, that you're in the moment, that you're present, and that you give a sense of calmness and confidence with that handshake it's going to be great. And if it's someone you haven't seen for a long time, and it's one of those things where you handshake and then you give them a hug, just be in the moment of the handshake. And if this is for an interview or someone you've never met before, then you don't want to be too aggressive. It's at least my experience. You don't want to be too aggressive. You want to have that sense of, hey, here would be the energy I would say. It's such a pleasure and an honor to meet you. Thank you for your time. That is the energy that I would kind of come to a new handshake with. So anyway, that is the virtual scavenger hunt. And now we are open to any questions. So I have on this slide my name, Dr. Jim Hoven, and my email address, jim@ramoslaw.com. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to help in any way that I can. And so at that point, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to come back to see if there's any other questions. So I don't see any questions, and I will go with this. Andrew, is there anything else that I could do while we're here on this, or anything that you see would be of benefit?
No, I think this is perfect. Thank you so much for doing this.
You are welcome. And so I will get this connected to the PowerPoint, our recording of it, and then we can send it your way, and you guys can do with it whatever you will. Is that good?
Yes, I appreciate it so much.
Okay, my pleasure. Hey, thanks for the opportunity. I really, really enjoyed it, and certainly wish anyone watching this the best of luck.